Hello friends, this is Pooja. Welcome to my channel Learning Hub. Today we are going to learn modal verbs. Although previously I have made videos on this topic, but only some few contents were covered in it. Today we will go in details and learn completely modal verbs. What are they and their uses? So let us start. Now we start our lesson, modal verbs. Here are 4 important points regarding modal verbs. Let us see what are they. Point number 1, it's always followed by infinitives, but to is not added in it. Point number 2, it's always same for all the pronouns. There is no other change. Point number 3, changes to negative or question form directly. It can change to negative or question form directly without any change. For example, can changes to can't or can we. Point number 4, never get combined with other modal verbs. We have never seen one modal verb combined with other modal verbs. So these were some important points regarding modal verbs. Now let us see what are its types or what type it is categorized into. Can, could, may, might, should, ought to, must, will, would, shall. These are some important points. These are some important types it's categorized into. One thing I must mention here that have to and need to is although used, but we can't call it as modal verbs. They are not modal verbs. Hope it is clear till here. Now let us move ahead. So here we start with our first modal verb, can and can't. Point number 1, can and can't is used to show someone's capability or incapability. For example, Ram can handle the meeting efficiently. Rumi cannot do her homework. In first example, it is showing the Ram's capability to handle the meeting, whereas in the second example, it's showing Rumi's incapability to do her homework. Second point, informal request with family, friends, etc. For example, can you pass me the book please? Can we talk after an hour? In both the example, we can see that it is an informal request. Can and can't is not used in a formal setup. Let us move ahead. Point number 3. Point number 3 is giving permission or prohibiting someone. For example, she can visit the office at 11 a.m. but she can't meet the principal directly. In the sentence, it is permissioned to visit the office at 11 a.m. but she is not permission to visit the principal directly. Point number 4, negative verb with something that is not real. He behaved politely. He cannot be unmannered. If the person is behaving politely, we cannot assume him as unmannered. So point number 4 is negative verb. Point number 5, real possible situations or general possible situations. She can marry him by June or next year in January. Geet can shift to Europe this year. In both the sentences, it is showing the possibilities behind the marriage and behind Geet shifting to Europe. Hope it is clear till here. Our next modal verb is could or could not or couldn't. It is the past form of can. Let us see its uses. Point number 1, for informal request. Could or couldn't is used for informal request. For example, could we have some snacks with the tea? Could you run me through your profile? Both the examples here are informal. Okay. Point number 2, showing someone's capability or incapability. If we need to show someone's capability or incapability, then we use could or couldn't. For example, Mom could go for the market today. They couldn't find the address at once. In both the sentences, we can see capability as well as incapability in finding the address. Okay, point number 3, suggesting anyone. For suggesting anyone, we use could or could not. For example, could we have a meeting to discuss on the topic? You could have met John last night. Both the sentences here are suggesting to do some kind of work. Okay, let us move ahead to point number 4. Point number 4, for polite request. If we need to do polite request, we use could or couldn't. For example, could you call your mom please? Could we meet at the restaurant? Both the sentences are showing politeness. Point number 5, possibility. Positive verb. It is alternative to may or might. For example, he could forgive her. He may or might forgive her. She could like your proposal. She may or might like your proposal. Both the sentences show the possibility, as well as we can see that it is alternative to may or might. Possibility in the past. It is also used to show the possibilities in the past. For example, she could have slept last night. She may or might have slept the last night. Sentences are showing the possibilities in the past. Point number 6, negative verb, which cannot be assumed as true. For example, the door is locked. She could not have returned previous night. It is used in the negative sense, which may not be true. One thing I must mention here, in the negative deduction, can't and could not are interchangeable. When we talk about the negative things, there can't and couldn't are interchangeable. She can't or couldn't be an engineer. Okay, let us move ahead. Be or might. Point number 1, may or might is used for seeking permission. For example, may I use your car for a day? May I keep my luggage in your room? Point number 2, for possibilities. For example, she may or might come on Saturday. Reena was absent today. She may or might have been sick. Both the situations show here possibilities. One thing I must note here, may is not used for hypothetical situation. If he hadn't run fast, he might not have got hurted. Our next modal verb is should. Let us see its uses. Point number 1, expressing an opinion or advice. For example, you are gaining weight. I think you should do exercise. Another example is, I think you should plant some trees there. Point number 2, showing an expectation. For example, the meeting should end in an hour. I expect the meeting to end soon. It is showing a kind of expectation. Another example is, the meeting should have ended in an hour. I expect the meeting to have ended. Okay. Point number 3, expressing regret or criticizing someone. It is used for expressing regret or criticizing. For example, We should have invited her for the dinner. It is a kind of regret. Another example is Ram shouldn't have made fun of her. This shows a kind of criticism. One thing I must mention here, ought to is a synonym of should. It is more formal than should. For example, I think we ought to send him the invitation. She oughtn't have cheated him. In both the examples, we can see ought to, and it is more formal than should. Our next modal verb is must. Let us see his uses. Point number 1, assumption in positive sense. For example, Rumi must be excited with the prizes she received. Another example is Karan is not answering the call. He must have left his phone somewhere. Examples are showing a kind of assumption. Point number 2, showing a kind of necessity, present or in future tense. For example, I am feeling low. I must take rest. Another example here is you must verify about the call before the payment. Examples are showing a kind of necessity. Okay, one thing I must mention, must don't have past form, so had to use instead. For example, I was feeling tired, so I had to take rest for an hour. Okay, let us move ahead. Our next modal verb is have to. Let's see the uses. Point number 1, for external obligation, duties in a positive sense. For example, she had to complete all the work before leaving the office. Another example is I will have to finish my homework by night. It is showing a kind of duty. Point number 2, for external obligation in negative sense. For example, we can trust her. We don't have to cross-check it. Another example is you didn't have to wait. Your lunch was packed. Here the examples are in negative form. Okay, let us move ahead. Our next modal verb is will. Let us see its uses. Point number 1, for predicting. For example, I think so. He will reach by noon. It's a kind of prediction. Point number 2, for expressing possibility. For example, maybe she will meet you today. A kind of possibility. Okay. Point number 3, making promise. For example, I will help you in cooking. It's a kind of promise. Okay. Point number 4, make decisions. If we make decisions, for example, she is sick. I will take her to doctor. It is a kind of decision. Okay. One thing I must mention here is that will is also used in informal request. If we are doing informal request, will is used, but it is not used in a formal setup. Let's see the example. Will you clean the house? It's a kind of formal request. Let us move ahead. Next modal verb is would. Let us see its uses. Point number 1, for making polite request. Example, would you hold on your speech for a moment? Okay. Point number 2, for showing habitual actions. Example, in childhood, I would draw picture for hours. It's a kind of habitual activity. Okay. Point number 3, expressing politely. For example, it's my pleasure. I would love to write this article. Another example here is, it would be an honor for me to be a part of your institution. Both the examples here are showing a kind of politeness. So let us move ahead. Our next modal verb is shall. Let us see its uses. Point number 1, offer or offering. For example, shall I help you? A kind of offering. Point number 2, suggestions or suggesting someone. For example, shall we meet again? It's a kind of suggestion. Okay. Point number 3, advice or giving advice. For example, shall we study at night? Here, the example is a kind of advice. Point number 4, predictions. It is used with I and we. For example, I shall deliver the speech if she denies. The example is a kind of prediction. Okay, so that's all for today's video. If you like the video, just give a thumbs up, subscribe it, don't forget to hit the bell icon and share it with your friends. Again, if you have any queries, you can ask me in the comment box below, or you can simply mail me on my mail ID which I have mentioned in the video. Okay, thank you. Thanks for watching.